we are leaders in the space of management education, which by itself is rather interdisciplinary in its nature. Management education is not just about specific domain knowledge, but it also enables a lot of holistic development. A lot of modern management curriculums are very much a combination of management at the core, technology as well, which is getting more into the core as we go forward, and at the same time, a liberal studies orientation too. So I see a confluence of all three coming along. We have focused a lot on the kind of pedagogy that we actually have, pedagogy that is immersive in its orientation. And of course, in the last 2 years, pedagogy, blended orientations to learning have kind of moved by leaps and bounds, and that is the case with us as well. We're strategically located in the Delhi NCR region. If I look at the rankings, if you look at whichever rankings you would want to consider, we've been consistently ranked high across the various publications, across the various ranking mechanisms. And we are also proud to say that for the last many years, we are also an ACSP accredited institution, right? What that basically means is that we are part of very good, very effective, very rigorous process of international business schools, which are able to deliver on the learning outcomes very effectively. So international standards. Apart from that, we're rather proud to have a very large base of alumni who have been tangibly, visibly, and also shining from contributing back to IMT Ghaziabad. We have many people who are at the helm of various companies, organizations across not only India, but abroad. And I'll talk a little bit about the international partners that we have as well, because that's something that fundamentally is rather important if you're trying to build in certain dexterity. As I was mentioning earlier, rankings-wise, whichever ones you take, we are rather high, and that's largely because of a commitment to the learning process, a commitment to the students, the commitment to the ability to create large exit velocities for our students. What do we offer? We obviously have a PGDM full-time, PGDM marketing, we have PGDM finance, we have a program called the PGDM dual country program, wherein you spend 1 year within the Ghaziabad campus and then you spend 1 year abroad. And of course, we also have the PGDM banking and financial services program as well. Within that, we offer various ways to be able to specialize. And what you see at the bottom here are a combination of various electives and specializations that you could possibly take in the form of tracks: human resource management, marketing management, finance management, operations management, and what have you. If you look at our faculty, and that's fundamentally, apart from students, of place, the intellectuality of the students, the cultural contribution of the students, faculty are what differentiate us from many of the other institutions out there, and we are rather selective in how we go about the faculty selection process. Our faculty, the new faculty that come in go through the Center for Faculty Development, where they're mentored, and we build certain levels of teaching effectiveness, research effectiveness, and also leadership effectiveness within the center. In the last many years, and something that has been rather recognized by ACSB as well, is IMT Ghaziabad faculty's ability not only to disseminate knowledge, but also create knowledge. So we are at the cutting edge of research as well, and for which we've won applauds, plaudits, and recognition. We also have our own journal. I won't get into major details because the idea is for me to interact with you and not just create a monologue. But our campus is advanced. We have smart classes. The library system by itself, has the offline and the online impetus. A lot of the knowledge that exists has obviously moved online, and we are someone who subscribe to cutting-edge advanced database systems. The learning is not just about what happens in the classroom. The learning is also about what happens outside the classroom. When you are in the classroom with 9 and 6, that's perfectly fine, and you can curate it. But leadership comes out of how you curate the rest of the time that you are, within the campus, but not in the classroom. So student life becomes rather important, and IMT Ghaziabad has a very vibrant student life, very rich in clubs, and a lot of student activities. And once again, I keep emphasizing the whole point about students. So students have been making us proud in more ways than one. Very recently, we actually were placed third globally and first in Asia on the Bloomberg Global Trading Challenge as well. So we're rather proud of our students. We're rather proud of the contributions that they've been making to us. And in the last many years, a lot of the focus has not just been on corporate careers or corporate outcomes, but also on an impetus on incubation, innovation, entrepreneurship, and startup. And when you, dig in further and understand about what our ethos is, our vision is, you realize that this whole concept of, creating people or creating business leaders, not only from a perspective of job consumption, but the job production is a primary goal for us at IMT Ghaziabad as well. And we do a lot of activities there. As I mentioned earlier, we have a large base of international partnerships. We have immersion programs. To give you an example, the BFS program, the PGDM BFS program, is partly delivered by our partners out there. And if you look at Vlerick Business School, which is based in Belgium, they are co-contributors and co-delivery partners of the PGDM BFS program. And of course, there are many other partners that we have and various engagements that we have with them. As far as placements are concerned, we've done rather well in this particular placement cycle. We've had a record of placing a great number of students in 17 days flat. Been good for us. Our students have been shining. The highest package that we've got is 62 lakhs per annum. The average stands at about 15.28. And of course, not only that, if you look at other measures, let's say the top 10% average for the batch stands at about 24.99. There are various organizations that who pride themselves in recruiting from IMT Ghaziabad, and a number of them are actually listed here, including Gartner, including IDFC, including Abbott, Accenture, ITC, Hero, and many others. You can read about this further on the website when you go along there. It gives you a fair idea of the kind of contributions that IMT Ghaziabad has been making to the lives of students. One of the predominant drivers to come into business school is to be able to create corporate careers, and we've been contributing to that. Further breakdown is here. We don't necessarily have so much time for that today, but I'm sure you'll read about this as you go along on the various whether on the website, whether on social media. You'll get a fair glimpse of the kind of placements that we've been doing, the various sectors our students are being placed in. Our alumni is a lifeline, apart from the students and apart from the faculty. Our alumni are serving well and with distinction across the board in marketing, in finance, in HR, even as founders of startups. And to give you one example is Dharmil Sheth, who's a co-founder of FarmEasy. And as you read along, whether you go onto LinkedIn, you'll see a lot of very visible, tangible contributors as far as alumni is concerned. In fact, yesterday we relaunched our corporate mentoring program led by our alumni. So you're not only mentored by the faculty, but right from the beginning of your existence within the campus, you're mentored by the alumni who are at least 10 years of experience themselves. Now, I'm sure a lot of this information is already available out there. A lot of this information might come out from the website, from our conversation now when I answer your questions. But I just wanted to give you a glimpse of what is it that IMT looks for in a potential aspirant. Remember, a competitive examination is definitely an indicator to your abilities, to your skill sets, to what you have in terms of potential. But there's a lot of other things that we look for when we look for the right kind of candidates. So whether that be subject domain knowledge, whether that be analytical capabilities, your work experience is also rather important to us. The ability to work in teams, of course, leadership qualities, your creativity, your aspiration. Why do you want to do an MBA program? Is it because of her orientation, or is it because you want to stand out and want to differentiate yourselves going forward through the program? This gives you an idea of the batch profile. Once again, a lot of this information will be out there, whether it's engineering grads, whether it's management, science. We have a a good, nice, diverse mix of people with the right kind of undergraduate qualifications as well. The process is such: you got to fill out the application form, submit your test scores. The admission process, shortlist will happen. The selection process takes place. We announce the results, and of course, thereafter things move forward. We have revamped our application admissions process, and we would like to invite a lot of people with good, strong, robust profiles and with a certain level of aspiration and achievement to come and apply to us as well. Whether it's exceptional profiles from a sports perspective, from an awards perspective, from a background perspective, from an achievement perspective, work experience perspective, and of course, possibly a high test score as well. So these are things that we actually look for. A lot of this, like I said, is available there. Please go through, engage with the material, understand what IMT Ghaziabad can possibly do for you, and then take a call, decide on what you would like to do, which are the areas you would like to work in, which are the specializations that you might want to go in for. And then it's an important decision. Remember, for a lot of you, doing the PGDM or an MBA is essentially the last 2 years of your formal education for most of you, right? But having said that, in the continuous learning environment, in this whole environment of micro-credentialing and learning for life, we cannot obviously guarantee that these 2 years will be the last 2 years of formal education from a degree perspective, from postgrad diploma perspective. Of course, this could be considered as rather important. It's an important decision for you. And of course, it's an important decision for us. Whether we can add value to you as an applicant also becomes fundamentally important. All this information exists. Work experience, what are we looking for? What are the test scores that we're looking for? And the fact that if we have exceptional profile students, we're happy to relax the percentile criteria to a small extent, because we have to keep a certain nature of cohort as well. But for exceptional profiles, we are looking at certain exceptions to a very limited degree. This gives you an idea of the selection process. What do we look for? We have a critical thinking test. We have a personal interview. We have the academic scores. We obviously have the competitive scores, your work experience evaluation. And we also look for academic diversity going forward, whether it is from a gender perspective, whether it is from engineering, non-engineering perspective. But these are areas that we look for to ensure certain levels of academic diversity. These are key dates and deadlines. And of course, these dates and deadlines are also available on the website as well. So thanks very much. Thank you for allowing me to engage with you today. As far as the test scores are concerned, my request would be that we have a healthy balance here. My request to all the participants would be to go onto the website and look at the various weightages that we are offering as far as academic scores are concerned, critical thinking is concerned, your academic background is concerned, your test scores are concerned, and other forms of diversity as well. My request would be to look at that. Well, if you look at the whole origins of the PGDM programs are essentially programs that are given by standalone management institutions like IMT Ghaziabad, like MDI, or any of these others. And these are obviously governed by the All India Council for Technical Education, right? And that's essentially the nature of why it is a PGDM program. If you look at the benefits of the PGDM program, of course, there is MBA equivalent. So remember that, through the NBA system, right, through the National Board of Accreditation system, our PGDM programs, whether that be PGDM Marketing, PGDM Finance, PGDM Full-Time, they enjoy the MBA equivalent status as well. But if you look at the merits of a PGDM program, what you have to remember is that the PGDM program allows us to be able to keep our curriculum dynamic. It allows us to ensure that there's a lot of regular feedback, not only from our stakeholders, from our students, from our faculty, from our international partners, to be able to ensure that the curriculum is up to date and contemporary. So in fact, the fact that we have a PGDM is actually advantageous to us because we can actually do that. We can actually build up very dynamic, living, progressive curriculum.
Yeah. I think that's very important, students. For all of you, let me just add to what Dr. Talwar said. A PGDM allows a lot of flexibility for the management institutions. And if you actually go back 2 years and look at the top 50 B schools in the country, about 40 would be actually offering PGDM. And they became the top 40 of the top 50 or whatever those numbers are, essentially because they had the greater flexibility to design the curriculum, interact with the industry and change the curriculum, interact with international B schools, and be flexible in the curriculum, have credit transfers and those kind of things. So essentially, a PGDM is far more suited for management education as compared to a university ecosystem where this is happening. So now IIMs are universities in themselves, so they are actually management universities in a certain sense. So that's what it is. So because a lot of students keep asking us whether they should do an MBA and PGDM and all. MBA and PGDM, I prefer a PGDM as compared to an MBA, unless you're obviously from IIMs. And PGPM is totally different. PGPM is essentially a non-recognized qualification, and so to that extent, it is. If you're looking at a formal qualification, PGPM doesn't stand scrutiny for that. I hope I'm right, Dr. Talwar, what I said.
Yes, as far as the PGDM is concerned,
the
PGDM is what through the MBA accreditation route can offer the equivalence to the MBA program. But absolutely, 85% of all the best business schools in the country are actually offering the PGDM program. So as far as we are concerned, your work experience is still the time that you actually are engaged in the work, right? So normally July would be the time when you would get into the PGDM program at IMT Ghaziabad, unless and until it's like last year, wherein there was a small delay. The idea would be that some people tend to work till about January or February or March or April, or even work till the last month before they transition into the PGDM program. Automatically we would consider that as the overall experience till the time you officially don't get the relieving letter from the company. For us, that becomes, in a sense, the clock, in a way.
So just to answer what, put things in perspective, Kaushik, till the last day, so it's not on the date of application you're talking of it, till the last day when you're likely to work is what the work experience would be counted. That's what Dr. Talwar is saying.
Yes, because, fundamentally speaking, all the organizations that will come later, all the companies for hiring, they would obviously look at the duration of work that you worked for. That will be clocked. And of course, at the interview stage, when we are understanding the applications and the applicants, we would be looking at, and we will be talking about whether you worked already or whether you intend to work, till when you intend to work, even after getting selected and before you join the program. So for IMT Ghaziabad, we only accept the CAT, the ZAT, and the GMAT. These are the 3 exams that we accept for ourselves, not the CMAT. Okay.
And CMAT is allowed for the other 2 institutions, Nagpur and Hyderabad?
Yes. So CMAT results are taken into account for Nagpur and Hyderabad, IMT Nagpur. So I expect the applications to continue till the 3rd week of January, till the end of the 3rd week of January. The exact dates we'll be able to communicate, but I would request everyone to apply quickly if they're wishing to do so. But I would expect the application to be active till the 3rd week of January. Yes, we have various provisions for that. We have provided, whether it's boot camps, whether it's exchanges, whether it is immersions, we have provisions for across all our PGDM programs to be able to enable that, to be able to facilitate that process for all our students. Yes.
So would it be a semester, 2 semesters? How substantial is it?
It varies. So it varies from a certain number of weeks, let's say 3 to 4 weeks, all the way to terms or semesters as well. So that depends largely, Shreya, on what percentile you got. So as far as IMT Ghaziabad is concerned, be very transparent about the kind of percentiles we look for normally. Having said that, when we talk about profiling, and if we like your profile, if you like your promise, if you like your whole energy towards contributing to the PGDM program and making something of yourself, as mentioned in the slides, we're happy to look at a small relaxation in terms of the percentile.
The thing, Shreya, is that there is typically a weightage that is already announced for each of these criteria. It can be your GMAT score or your test score to your interview, the GD or the PI, or your academic qualifications and all. So there's a weightage that is done. But having said that, what Dr. Talwar says is there might be a slight relaxation within that also if they find you very exceptional.
So Shreya, I mean, if you have a percentile which is in the 90s zone, I would encourage you to apply. But of course, how robust your application is, how you come across, your analytical capability, your problem-solving capability, and what you mentioned, your personality, a lot of these things will get factored in. Exact percentages of whether, how much weightage we give, let's say 40% to something, 15% to something else, some percentage to diversity. All this is very transparent and clear on the website. Okay. So I think as a fresher, and of course, as someone who I assume has a competitive and a robust, examination score, CAT possibly, we would look for your, certain level of grounding as far as your BTech program is concerned, right? In the interview, what you have to remember here is that when companies come to hire at business schools, they not only look at your domain knowledge from a management perspective, but they also look at your grounding from even the undergrad perspective, because there's a lot of variance across the board, especially at the undergrad level in tertiary education. So from there, we look at your analytical capability. From there, we look at your critical thinking. Your leadership skills becomes fundamentally very important. Are you someone who has a certain level of leadership capability? Of course, what you also have to keep in mind is the nature of the specialization. If you already have a certain specialization in mind, how do you fit that specialization? So are you looking at a marketing specialization? Are you looking at finance? Are you looking at HR? Are you someone who can do justice to that particular specialization or its operations, for example? So we need to be able to understand whether your character, your personality, your whole worldview, how you go about yourself, whether it aligns with the kind of specialization. Having said that, a lot of students don't always have a complete understanding of specialization. We understand that. So long and short of it is your creativity, your leadership potential, your purpose, how driven you are as far as you and why do you want to do the MBA? How do you want to use that as a mechanism to, change your life or, reach a certain level of aspiration, your analytical capability, all these things become fundamentally important for us.
Yeah. Yes. And just to add to what Dr. Talwar said, Anurag,
yes, sir.
The short way of preparing for an interview is to ensure that you're well informed, which means please read the newspaper every single day.
Absolutely.
There is no magic pill for appearing for an interview. That's very important, right? So the more better informed you are, the better you're confident, and that will come through in the interview process also. And two, in an interview, never ever lie. I can tell you because I was sitting in a lot of such interview panels. There was one interview panel that I sat where one student came and said he follows the stock markets, and I asked him what's the index yesterday. He fell. There's another guy who came and said he follows the Bombay, Bollywood box office, and I asked him what it is, and he reeled off all the top hits and what collections they were. He was selected.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So be very clear about telling the truth and be well informed by reading the newspaper every single day.
Yes, you're right, Mr. Maheshwar. I think being abreast of contemporary knowledge becomes very important, because I think that all contributes to depth. A lot of us, if you're asked a question, what is your favorite book or what 3 books you have read in the last few days, many times you just pick up the names of the books without knowing exactly the details. So that's essentially fibbing, and that's something that you should ideally avoid. Contemporary knowledge, remember, we're living in a day and age where our attention spans are lower, wherein we don't necessarily inculcate a habit of reading, and even if we do, our patience with reading is not always that high. But I think you still have to be able to keep abreast of latest contemporary information. It's very important. I think the overall program that you're inducted into whether it is a PGDM full-time, whether it is the PGDM marketing or finance or dual country or BFS, those remain a constant. But we have that system of how you select your electives, whether as major or minors. So if you have a certain penchant or interest for finance and some levels of, let's say, marketing-based courses, the curriculum enables that. So the overall, when you get, let's say, when you're part of the PGDM full-time program or PGDM marketing program, that kind of remains a constant. But within that, we are able to enable a certain level of crossover in terms of picking up certain electives that are of your interest or which align with your careers going forward. Yes, so the 62 lakhs salary that I spoke about is actually the international salary.
Okay.
That I spoke about. So it includes the international, yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is something that is not the first time I'm hearing this. Mm-hmm. Some people do consider IMT Ghaziabad as, a marketing, hotbed in a way. Well, let me tell you, if we look at the profiles of our alumni, if you look at the profiles of our students and the varied courses they're studying, whether it is finance, whether it is human resource, and in fact, what's the best way to judge how we've contributed to the growth of our alumni or immediate pass outs or those who kind of pass through IMT Ghaziabad, qualify their MBA, the PGDM program, and move on? You'll notice that our students or alumni are actually shining across the board, right? So whether it's marketing, whether it is within organization from a marketing perspective in e-commerce, in a Kellogg, for example, in a Coke, for example, in advertising, for example, you'll have equally strong profiles of alumni across the board in finance, whether it's HDFC, bank, whether it's investment banking, whether it is as human resource heads as CHROs, whether it is the overall operations head as COOs or otherwise. So I think while there is a bit of a perception about the fact that IMT Ghaziabad, is a marketing mecca, as some people have mentioned, but let me tell you that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. If you look at the nature of the roles these people get, the nature of the profiles that come to campus, if you look at, once again, the alumni base and what they're actually doing, they're across the board, whether it's finance, whether it's human resources, whether it's marketing, whether it's operations or otherwise. Yes, there's a slight variation in the PGDM DCP fee. Obviously it has the international component. You're spending almost a year abroad. So the program by itself is preparing you for becoming an international corporate leader, right? If you look at the three legs of the program, and if you look at the three overall super specialization, you go to the website, you go to the type in PGDM DCP at IMT Ghaziabad, the super specializations that we have, the nature of the curriculum that we've created, which is different to the PGDM full-time marketing, whatever programs, you'll realize that these programs are essentially, the PGDM DCP program essentially being able to create a more robust manager who's able to work across domains, across cultures, and across geographies. So there's a good amount of difference. Here, you spend 1 calendar year in IMT Ghaziabad, and you spend 1 calendar year in Dubai. Of course, the nature of the faculty who are teaching you, whilst in Ghaziabad, even while in Dubai, the nature of the storytelling, the nature of the case studies, the nature of the discussions, the nature of the simulation that they do, the kind of faculty who are there in the classroom, there is a marked difference over there because the whole fundamental core objective of the DCP program is to be able to create, right from day one, internationally orientated corporate leaders. So I think some of the 3-4 things, and of course, what happens, and this is something that obviously happened in the last few years, is one major yardstick that you measure business school essentially is the exit velocity or the kind of placement. But quite frankly, if you look at any self-respecting business school or management institution, they'll always focus on one thing, the fact that a good placement outcome or a good package from your perspective is a kind of a nice, good byproduct to have, right? But the focal fundamental aspect should always be, what goes into it. So what goes into it is the curriculum. What goes into it is how is the curriculum delivered. What goes into it is who comes along in the classroom to inspire you, right? What goes into it is how modern and how contemporary the delivery mechanisms are. The other aspect that you should be ideally looking for is the level of personalization and the level of engagement that you are able to get from your faculty, the level of mentoring that you're able to get from them over a period of time, the kind of culture that exists in the campus, the kind of non-academic developments that contribute to your leadership capability, how that is enabled within the campus. These are all fundamentally very important indicators, right? And over a period of time, if you do these things well, and if you focus on these things rather well, and not just getting a good CGPA, right? So I think what automatically happens is that, a lot of us are conditioned to get a good CGPA score, right? But fundamentally, becoming a good business leader is not just about the CGPA, but it's about the overall experience and how you can capitalize on that experience. And you would notice if you immerse yourself in whatever 3-4 aspects I spoke about, the whole placement success aspect or the placement success rate aspect actually becomes a rather achievable target for you, right? So that's what I would always fundamentally focus on. So, the website Vaishnav talks about the requirements, right? So it talks about the various percentiles that we're looking for, the range of percentile we're looking for. It talks about the weightages that we give, not only to your percentile, to your background, academic background, other aspects, your work experience, for example, right? So that will give you a very good indicator to whether you should be applying or not. If you're anywhere close to that kind of range or band, right? I think I would encourage you to apply, and especially if you have other things to contribute, Vaishnav, right? It's not just about the CAT percentile. The range is very much there. It'll be there on the website, whether it's in the 90s range, how much within the 90s range it's given there. Apart from that, if you think you're able to meet up in terms of, let's say, the aspiration, the leadership qualities, some of your past achievements, possibly your work experience, maybe you've successfully launched an NGO for yourself, maybe you've contributed during this last 2 years of strife, to society or humanity. If you have any of those things, along with the fact that you have a certain critical thinking capability, I would encourage you to apply. So I think generally speaking, these are the various criteria. So if you look at selection process for 2022, your critical thinking. Now, I'm not talking in terms of IMT Ghaziabad. What I'm saying is that a lot of good, competitive business schools out there would definitely have some elements that will have some commonality here. So whether it's your critical thinking, your analytical capability, your written communication becomes very important because many of us are able to speak rather well. Many of us are able to, orally convey what we would like to convey. But when it comes to writing, either it's for whatever reasons, we don't have to write. Maybe it's the laptop. Maybe it's getting into multiple choice or whatever, right? Our written communication, at times lags our oral communication. Become very important. Your personal interview, what do we look for? Communication, definitely. It becomes really important. Remember that a 99 percentile is not always an indication to success. So if we think that we've got a 99.9 percentile, but our communicative orientation is not very strong, I think that then has an effect on the placement, right? So it's not just about having amazing percentiles here. Your domain knowledge, your analytical capabilities, your academic scores, all these things will become fundamentally important. And here I'm not just talking about Ghaziabad IMT, but I'm talking in general across the board. We have a small contribution, right, in terms of, let's say, about a certain scholarship that we offer.
Okay.
Right. So there's a Leelanath, Srimati Leelanath scholarship that we actually offer for, women candidates. So that's something that a lot of the women candidates should ideally be.
But in terms of scores and all, you don't give any prioritization for that, is it?
We look at non-engineering as a mechanism. We look at non-engineering. We want to have a lot more students, not just from the engineering domain, but also non-engineering domain. So, you would see that there's a lot more balanced, gender equality in a way for a lot of the non-engineering, grads. But so far, what we do for diversity is to offer a scholarship.
Okay, perfect. Dr. Talwar, I think I'll wrap it up here because in 5 minutes we have an IRMA thing that's coming up.
Sure.
Thank you so much for joining in, Dr. Talwar. I'll send you a link of all these things. Students, whatever Dr. Talwar said, and if you have any more questions, please mail it to us and we'll ask Dr. Talwar as we move along. Or we'll try to answer it ourselves if we have the information anyway with us. And the video of this entire thing edited would be up on a website in the next couple of days. You can access that as and when you want. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks so much. Thank you, everyone, and all the best for applications.
All the best for everyone, students. Bye.